And it's basically sort of the perseverance to meet a goal and the motivation to, sort of this idea that you will do what it takes to do it. And I think that's one of the most important things that people have to really try to have in life.
Hey, Dr. Bill Dorfman here with my good friend Wendy Rhodes, and this is another one of our Meet the Mentor series. And Wendy has a really unique position. What she is an event coordinator. What I'd like to do is have Wendy tell you a little bit about what she's been doing for the last 10 to 15 years, and then tell you how you can get involved in that if you'd like.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Good. So, how'd you get started doing events?
It was completely by accident. Of course, I came out, I got a great liberal arts education, I went to Vassar. Sort of a side job that I had was I was working for a family as a companion for their little girl. I wasn't, I didn't cook for them or anything like that. I mean, I barely even knew that I really could cook for myself. I think the only thing I ever made was pasta with marinara sauce. And the mother was a writer, she was always up against a deadline. And they were throwing a party for some friends on the weekend. And I said to her, do you want me to go out and just help you with this? Because I didn't have anything to do that weekend. And she said, oh my gosh, yes. And I didn't normally do that kind of stuff for them. So I went to a very high-end supermarket in LA. I won't mention the name of it. And I was looking at their prepared foods and I thought, this stuff doesn't even look that good. I could probably do better than this. So I went back to my little tiny kitchen in my little studio apartment in Westwood, and I made a bunch of stuff for this brunch that they were having. And literally from that one thing, somebody that was at that said, oh, do you do this? And I said, I don't know.
I
yeah.
do now.
Yeah. Well, and we'll talk about that later. That's actually a piece of advice that I have for people. But literally from that one thing, somebody said, oh, would you do a bridal shower for me? So, and I think about that event. I did things like I hand-tied chive ribbons on sandwiches. I mean, I did this amazing amount of detail for this event. Then did another dinner for the people that I took care of their little girl for. And from that, somebody that came to that dinner late said, we're doing a dinner for my sister-in-law, and it was the party was for the wife of Sam Rubin, who's the entertainment reporter at KTLA. Did this party for him, and the next thing I knew, he said, can you do KTLA's Christmas party for 300 people? And I just didn't think about it, and I said, yeah, absolutely. And inside, I was panicking and freaking out, going, okay, I better figure out in the next 2 months how I'm gonna do a party for 300 people. And I call Sam sort of client zero. From him, everything expanded out. And I've never advertised. Every bit of my business has been word of mouth.
Wow.
And yeah, I mean, I've been doing it for quite a while, and I've been extremely lucky with clients. There's an interesting thing I was reading, some article that I saw last week about this idea of, it's called grit. I don't know if you've heard of this. Grit is an actual psychological definition of a trait now, which shocked me. And this has been something, when I did one of the LEAP,
right.
one of the LEAP mentoring sessions, we kind of talked about this, but I didn't know that it actually had a name. And it's basically sort of the perseverance to meet a goal and the motivation to, sort of this idea that you will do what it takes to do it. And I think that's one of the most important things that people have to really try to have in life, because fake it till you make it is great, but you've got to really make sure that you do everything you can do to make it.
Yeah,
if you faked it.
And I think another big challenge today is that a lot of younger people don't feel like they need to pay their dues or start at the bottom.
Sure.
They want to be, at the top. And there's a learning process.
Sure.
That helps you kind of establish a base to work your way up.
Sure.
And there aren't a lot of shortcuts. And I think that sometimes we see these really successful people out in the media and you think, oh, well, that's just how happened overnight, or they didn't really have to work.
Well, there are a few people that's happened for, and there are a lot of people that would like to make you think that that's happened that way for them because they don't want to talk about all the steps that it took to get them there. So that idea of learning from people who are going through that process of starting at the bottom, paying your dues, learning your way up, it's extremely important.
How did you actually learn? Did you go out and watch other people? Did you read magazines?
No,
I mean,
well,
how did you learn?
both of my parents are great cooks. So the cooking sort of came from, my mother's a great home cook. She does like the most amazing Thanksgiving dinner you've ever had. My dad is the more adventurous, you know, he sort of taught himself to cook to relax himself when he came home from the office. So when I started out, most of my recipes, I would call my dad and say, oh my gosh, Dad, how do you make that, you know, that pasta sauce? How do you make that cake? And I started that way. And then, yeah, I read things, went out to restaurants, you know, ate out, exposed myself to as much as I could. And then the event planning aspect came into being when, I mean, I always wanted to get people to do creative things. You know, like you were talking about meeting or exceeding people's expectations. Sometimes you have to lead people to their expectations as well, because they don't always know what's possible, or they don't always have the imagination to conceive it. And that's sometimes one of the trickier things. But I had a client who was getting married at the Ritz-Carlton, and I couldn't cater it, obviously, because they have an amazing catering staff there. And she said, would you consider coordinating my wedding? And that to me was like a dream. I didn't have to cook. I was able to wear a nice dress and heels. I wasn't, you know, covered in food, and, you know, worked with their amazing staff. And I literally was able to take the reins and do all the creative stuff, which I absolutely loved. And I even do that in my food presentation. I really try, to me, the presentation and the taste and everything is always really important.
But where'd you get the ideas? I mean,
you know, reading. Jane Austen books, you know, watching films, you know, exposing yourself to as much culture as you can, you know, looking at photography books, at art books. I was an art history and drama major at Vassar, so I had that whole kind of art history background. You can find inspiration from so many places.
So let's say, you know, you're a student watching this and you've always dreamed of being an event planner.
Yeah.
What would you say is like the path they should take?
Well, I would say the best thing to do, at least as far as I mean, my path was a bit of an unusual path. It was very kind of hit and miss and circuitous, and I've been extremely lucky in the success that I've had. But I think certainly in your community, meeting people who do this, asking them, you know, begging them if you have to, if you can be an intern. A lot of times you need to be an unpaid intern, working around it, being at events, and seeing, first of all, if you really like it. Because there are a lot of people, I mean, and one of the unfortunate things about this business, not just, you know, not from the catering side of it, but a lot of event planning, wedding planners, you know, a lot of times when I start working with someone initially, they'll say, you know, I don't really like working with event planners. And you have to be a personable kind of person. You have to have good manners. You know, handwritten thank you notes are an extremely, I can tell you, I've gotten probably 5 weddings, big clients, from writing a handwritten thank you note and sending it to the parents, not to the bride, because it's the parents that are the ones that are usually hiring you and paying for it. Things like that, personal touches, help you build your business. But in terms of starting, finding people to mentor you, finding ways to work, be around this business, find exactly what you're interested in, because even now, there's so many different kinds of event planners. There are people that go into the corporate world. You can get a job with a company like, you know, any number, like Saks Fifth Avenue, who I do a lot of events with in terms of catering. They have a staff of event coordinators that do their, you know, corporate events, work under people who are in New York that take care of the entire, you know, all the stores. So there are many, many, many different things to do within this industry even, and finding where your niches and what you're most interested in and what you feel like you're best at is also really important.
If anybody out there wants to contact you, what's the best way to do it?
Probably by email, because I'm,
do you have a website?
I do have a website.
What's the website?
It's WendyRhodesEvents.com. So it's WendyRhodes events.com.
And your email?
There are pictures of you on there too, I think.
Oh,
so.
good.
Yeah.
And your email?
My email is info@WendyRhodesEvents.com. So please feel free to contact me. I'm always happy to talk to people.
All right. Well, Wendy, thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're amazing.
Thank you. It was great to do this. And I can't wait for LEAP.
Yeah, it's going to be great. July 23rd to the 29th. Go to our website. And till then, next week, we'll have another great Meet the Mentor. Dr. Bill, over and out.
Bye.